Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tim. Today we are talking about the best things you can do to upgrade your studio in order to make it look like this. So in order to build a studio like this, I want you to keep in mind some major things that you can do, and then after that we'll go over kind of like the minor things that you can kind of just accent, the minor details that will make a big difference to your video. So one of the first things that we're going to focus on are the things that are going to majorly impact your studio setup. And then we'll talk about the minor details that are going to accent it, because honestly those little details will add up and make your studio setup that much better. So first off, let's talk about lighting. I have two major lights in this studio. They are the Limo Studio 700 watt lights. Now the reason why I like these lights is because they're super cheap in comparison to other high-end lights. These studio lights you can pick up on Amazon for like 35 bucks each. And honestly, just one light will make a big difference. But for this setup in particular, I have one setup on the left and one setup on the right. That way you don't have any shadows on my face for both the right side, or your left side, and your right side, which is my left now. Also, a good thing about these lights is that they are super portable. They are very light, and they also come with their own light stand, so that's always a plus. If I had my choice, of course, one day I would definitely go with the aperture lights, but for now, these will do. I've used these from the very beginning of all my videos, actually, all the way up till now, and they've lasted over a year. So durability is a plus. But the biggest reason why you want these kind of studio lights is because they have very nice diffused light. There's a softbox that goes over these lights. I'll show you in like the B-roll. But when you have a light like that, it diffuses really nicely across your entire setting of your studio setup. So I would definitely recommend investing in first studio lights, because this is the game changer. When you have a nice flat white light like this, not only are you able to manipulate like your text and fonts better when you do motion graphics, we'll talk about that detail a little bit later. Nice soft white light like these give you a lot of creative control over when you're color grading too, because it provides a very neutral setting to what you're doing. You notice the difference right away, especially if you are color grading with yellow lights. Why? Because yellow lights will affect like your skin, it affects the colors of like your lights, and it just avoid yellow lights. Go with white soft lights for your studio setup. Now the second major thing I would do to upgrade your studio setup is to focus on your background. Let's talk about walls first. So if you have a wall, like I do here, I chose a nice soft matted color. Now the two reasons why I specifically chose this color and that matted feel. One is you don't want light to reflect across your background, because you can get really spotted areas when you're color grading and you don't want light to reflect off of your background, so that's why I chose a matted color and a darker color. Now the second thing you want to think about is how are you going to incorporate motion graphics or any kind of text in your videos. When you're doing that, most likely you're probably going to use like a white font, right? White fonts will stand out in this kind of color setting. That's why every time you're editing videos, every time you're shooting videos, every time you're setting up for a video, you always want to think about the final edit to make your life easier, in order for you to crank out more videos, in order for you to crank out more content, better content, and so on. So dark matted colors, that way light doesn't reflect it as badly, and so you can have more creative control over your text and fonts in post. Now let's say you don't have a solid wall like this. Let's say you're filming in your living room. I actually like it a lot better when you have separation between your background and you. So if you have your living room, that's even better, because then you can put like different lights all along like different layers. You just want to make sure you do two different things. One, always make sure your background is clean, organized, and tidy, because it's going to distract your viewers away from you. And two, I also like to avoid any kind of motion in my background. I don't know about you, but every time I am watching a video and I see like a computer monitor that's going in the background, it's like a screensaver. Anything that moves will inevitably distract your viewers away from you and for what you're saying. So you want to try to avoid that. So for me, I don't like any kind of motion in the background. Try to avoid motion, and the separation is good because then you can create depth, which leads me to my next point, which is here, right? So because I have a wall, I still want to create some kind of separation. That way there's a nice blurred background behind me. You're also telling the camera that there is a separation between you and your background, which is why I put this nice super retro cool IKEA light in the midground in order to create that separation between you and the wall. Overall, it just looks so much nicer when you have a nice soft focus around the person that's talking and then whatever it is in the back. So midground separators, we'll go ahead and make that term real for now, will help you accentuate your foreground and create separation between foreground and background. So definitely try to keep that in mind when you are setting up your studio. You know, I don't know about you, but I really enjoy watching blurry videos, which is exactly what happened for the next 45 minutes of me talking. My God. So for whatever reason, the autofocus just decided to focus on my shelf. I don't remember like moving around so much to the point where it was just shifted focus, but either way, I decided to finally fix that problem by getting a mini LCD monitor, which I can finally see because on the 1D you actually don't have a swivel screen, so you can't see. And most of the time when I'm recording all these recent videos, I'm kind of recording blind because I can't even see what I'm doing. And it's time I stopped guessing. I am 100% making a top 5, top 10 mistakes as a photographer videographer, so it'll help you one day avoid all this. Anywho, what we were talking about before I was so rudely interrupted by my autofocus, I'm looking at you, which is now focused. Here was camera settings. So obviously your camera, your lens, all that does matter, but I do have a video linked right up here which talks about all those camera settings, and then of course I'll make a different video which talks about all my gear in general, but let's focus just on the studio setup today. So next up, I actually want to talk about this table. Now the first table that I used was actually a white table that I got from IKEA. That was a terrible choice because white looks so bad when it reflects across with light. I know people use white tables, but at least the table that I got reflected light so badly, it made everything look oversaturated, and even with my color grading, it just made everything look so bad. So I would actually recommend not using a white table unless you have some kind of matted white table where that doesn't reflect light. Then the second thing I did was actually I picked up this wooden table from Amazon because I really like that wooden texture. And in the end, I actually would really like a nice, real, authentic wood table eventually. But the problem also with the wooden table that I got on Amazon was that it had a very dark, dreary feel to it. And I just didn't like it either because all the colors didn't look as vibrant as I would have liked it. So in order to fix that yet again, I got this black vinyl, which seems to be fixing a lot of the problems that I had in the past. Which is funny, right? Because dark and dreary and I'm using a black vinyl table. But this black vinyl I like because instead of having to buy a brand new table, you can just cover the surface that you have, and it actually looks really, really nice. The light has a nice soft matted feel to it. Colors really pop when you're showing off components. And on top of that, when you are color grading, you can always bring down the blacks, which really helps to take away like all like the dust and little micro textures that you can normally see in camera. That way you can focus on the components that you're showcasing or whatever products that you're showcasing right above for the overhead shots. So again, everything is linked down below if you want to pick up this black vinyl or if you want to pick up this table. Next up, let's talk about accent lighting. My favorite thing in this entire studio setup are these Yongnuo lights. Why? Because they are RGB, so you can change to any color you want. They're super bright and they're so versatile. I use these to make products look super cinematic. You can use them as accent lights. So see, I actually have one back here and I actually have one that also lights up right behind me, which gives a nice blue shadowy aura. Batteries last forever. And honestly, I think these are the best investments that I ever made. I love these lights. They come in handy. And on top of it, they're very travel friendly. So you can use them beyond your studio. But Yongnuo lights, I highly, highly recommend. If anything from today, aside from these studio lights, these right here, amazing. And especially for that price point, extremely worth it in my opinion. See, so you have a nice little blue shadow right behind me on top of that orange hue right behind me too. So because I like the whole teal and orange look. Now next up, I have this LED strip which I wish was brighter, but it also doesn't help because I have two giant studio lights pointing at it, so it's going to decrease the intensity of that brightness. But you can change this to any color you want: green, blue, red, teal, purple. Oh, actually that's kind of cool too. But yeah, I usually leave these on orange just so it has a very, very nice subtle hue to it. Eventually, what I would like to do is actually take these lights off and then maybe have a spotlight shining on these curtains here. And the LED strip too, I actually tried to put it on the table, but it didn't look as nice. But either way, those LED strip lights are actually very, very cheap. It's like 30 bucks. A cheaper alternative to accent lights are also fairy lights. So if you ever have fairy lights, you can just put these in some kind of enclosure and then put them on your shelf. That also looks really nice too. I used to do that actually. And speaking of my shelf, so the last thing I want to talk about today is the shelf itself. So the shelf I actually picked up from IKEA as well. So to me, shelves I think are so important because they do a couple of things. One, they showcase your personality. Two, it kind of puts like thoughts in the back of your viewers' minds just to premise them with what you're talking about for the day. For example, when I'm talking about board games, I'll tend to put the cover right up here, just in case if they happen to pass by your video and they're like clicking through it, at least they'll know what you're talking about by putting just the board game title up there. Or if the intention of your video is to have a one-on-one conversation like we're doing here, for like a studio setup, I'd like to just showcase the things that I like. And apparently I am 28 going on 12, so there we go. But here I have some nice Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I have, you know, a nice golden Charizard, Rotom, all of these which were from the top Instagram creators of 2019. which I'll link right up here if you want to see where I got all these from. But then again, I'll switch it off. Sometimes I'll put different artwork. Sometimes I'll just plain lights. Sometimes I'll put the next board game. So I like to switch out the shelves a lot. Actually gives some variety to the videos, things like that. So I think shelves are very, very important, or some form of displaying your hobbies or things that you like. Doesn't have to be a shelf. Maybe it could be like the top of a mini table you can put on the side right here. And those are some tips for upgrading your studio, especially for 2020. Everything that I talked about today, link below. But yeah, if you have any questions about the studio setup, please leave me a comment down below. I'd be more than happy to answer all of them. But yeah, if you have any comments or questions about your own studio setup, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Thanks for stopping by, and until next time, I'll see you later.